And works, he's one of the senior most Indian Americans at a company called SAP. I think a lot of you might have heard of them. But his passion is to really be inclusive. And in fact, he runs the largest conference in India called Inclusion, where over 1,500 people with disabilities get together every year and really, take up action on that initiative. Also, Ferose has not been just doing that, but working with corporations to make sure that they hire these people as well. So please welcome Ferose.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, MR, sir. When I hear such amazing introductions, I wish my mom and dad were here because my dad would be very proud and my mom would actually believe everything you said. So. That's how moms are. So I'm not going to speak about SAP, or I'm not going to speak much about inclusion, but I'm going to speak about givers. And I want to give you a completely different take on giving. We heard a lot of data about givers, but let me give you an alternative perspective about giving. I've been studying this for the last 10 years now. And most of the study is not complete. My book should come out next year, and we are building something called the Givers Platform. So it's far from complete, and I was telling sir that I'm not ready yet, but he said, no, tell your idea. So the first thing that I want to tell you is, what our narrative is, it's not how much you give, but how much are you ready to give up. And what we measure is how much people give. And I'm not saying that's wrong, but I'm saying there's an alternate narrative. And I'll tell you 3 stories about giving up and how we are trying to measure giving in a completely different form. This is Kerala. I come from Kerala. Anybody from Kerala here? Fantastic. Kerala in the last months have shown what giving up is all about. Not how much you give, but how much giving up is all about. No statistics and no data captures this story. That a beggar gave 94 rupees that he earned to the Kerala Relief Fund, and he did it the right way. Put a check and give that money. Cancer-stricken guy gives 5,000 rupees for Kerala flood relief. We don't capture these stories. We don't celebrate these stories, and I think that's fundamentally flawed. Because money is a bad proxy for giving. Because giving is contextual. You know this guy? Dustin Hoffman? He won the Oscar award for a movie which was very famous. Anybody knows which movie did he won the Oscar for? Fantastic. He won the Oscar award for Rain Man. What people don't know is he gave away his Oscar to this guy. Do you know who he is? His name is Kim Peek. He's profoundly autistic. And Dustin Hoffman, his story was based on Kim Peek's story. He gave his Oscar to him, and he said, to him and his father, said, go and spread the message about autism across the world. Kim Peek and his father spent the rest of their life going around the world telling what autism is all about and how profoundly gifted people on the spectrum are. Both son and father died a few years back in Salt Lake City, but in their lifetime, they reached out to 2 million people about the power of people on the spectrum, carrying the Oscar that Dustin Hoffman won. How do you measure that act of giving away an Oscar award? I don't know how many of you would do that. I just came yesterday night from South America. I was in Brazil, Chile, and Colombia. And if you haven't seen a movie called Nossa Chape, please do watch it. It's a documentary. It's a documentary about a football team from Brazil which was considered an underdog. They went on to win the Brazilian national, and the entire team was taking a flight to Colombia to play the South America Cup finals. Unfortunately, they had an air crash. And the whole movie is about this team that, 8 out of 81 people, 70 of them die. And the Colombians are, by the way, the most warmest people on earth. What did the Colombians do? They will give their life to win the South America Cup. They gave away their trophy to Chapecoense, the club that lost most of its players. So I asked the Brazilians, and the Brazilians, a lot of my friends, they were incredibly moved. They said, I wouldn't believe that the Colombians would give away the trophy to us. Brazilians and Colombians are crazy about soccer. They don't give that away. So the Brazilians on one side were completely surprised that the Colombians gave away the trophy. And I went to Colombia 2 days later, and I met the Colombians, and everybody said, you know what? That's what we all would have done anyway. No big deal. Giving is seen very differently by different sets of people. And I met this guy. His name is Jackson Fallman. He's one of the survivors, the goalkeeper, who survived the plane crash. And he said, the Colombians are the greatest givers on earth. A very different narrative around giving. He said, every time I go to Colombia, the people carry me on their shoulders. Now, what I am interested is not impact. I think we're completely fooling ourselves by measuring impact. It's good, but that's not the only narrative. I am saying giving, if it increases your faith in humanity, that is the ultimate form of giving. It has to increase your faith in humanity. Money is a good proxy, but that's not the only proxy for giving. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to have an alternate narrative to giving. As I said, how do we measure acts of giving? It's incredibly easy to measure how much you give. Very easy. It's transactional. I am interested in measuring transformational acts of giving. That moves you, increases your faith in humanity. It's incredibly difficult. So what are we doing? We said we will study these stories and find patterns that moves you deeply. So we've scanned 150,000 stories using machine learning and AI, and we are building a platform to measure these alternate forms of giving. And we found 6 very interesting characteristics. 6 very interesting characteristics. I won't say this is complete, but there are 6 interesting characteristics of giving. And this is not important. Why do people give? Why do people not give? What do religions talk about giving? This is all studies and this is well documented. But let me share the 6 characteristics that we've identified. The first is we said, we'll remove money out of the picture. As I said, it's a bad proxy. It's one form of giving, but that's not the only form of giving. So let's remove money out of the picture. This is how it happens, largely centered around money. We have the habit of first accumulating and then giving. And I'm saying give as you go. Everybody can give. Doesn't mean you are rich or poor. Give as you go. And you first accumulate for 50 years and then you give. So what are the 6 characteristics? This is the things that people give. Time, talent, treasure, and touch. And I said most of the research is focused on time, talent, and treasure, not so much how much it touches you. Because that has been proven to have a higher impact. And by the way, there is enough study to show that the poor give more. This is proven. No need to do any more studies on that. And guess what? We study the rich people. I'm like, why don't people get this? The first thing I've said is do the uncommon thing. What if we eliminate money out of the equation? Focus on long term. What do I mean by that? I said giving has a ripple effect. It's not transactional. It has a ripple effect. Find out the half-life period for an act of giving. How long does that act of giving live? What Dustin Hoffman did as an act of giving lived for like 30 years. Figure out what is the half-life period of an act of giving. The beggar who gave 94 rupees, I'm speaking about that to the wealthiest people in this, Indians in this room. That had a profound ripple effect. 94 rupees didn't mean much in the absolute context, but it had a profound ripple effect. And I've seen givers in my whole life. They have an intangible presence. I don't know how to measure that. You sit next to a giver, it moves you somewhere. As I said, the study is not complete, but our mission, or my mission, and we're working a lot of people on this, is to bring an alternative narrative to the idea of giving. Move from transaction to transformation. Celebrate the unsung givers. And what you're trying to do is build a platform to amplify these stories. Because if somebody tells me Indians don't give money, I agree. But that's not the only way Indians give. We give in very different forms. You know, I have a story, and this is something I can't show you because I'm not allowed to. A remote part of Karnataka, somebody sent me this story, and I said, I have to meet these people because human beings don't do such things. Here is a mother who gave birth to twins in a remote part of India. And she got to know that there was another lady in the same hospital who had a kid who died during childbirth. And she told this lady that my husband will kill me because, you know, this was the only hope of having a kid. She gave one of her children to that mother. This is a real story. How do you measure that act of giving? It increases your faith in humanity. And that's the narrative that I am interested in looking forward to. Ladies and gentlemen, all kinds of giving can make a profound positive difference, and everybody has something valuable to give. Thank you so much.